We are honored today to speak with legendary designer Frank Davis, designer of such games as Frederick the Great, Wellington's Victory, and The Guns of August. Today we're going to discuss his wargame design philosophy here on Legendary Tactics.
This is something no one else you talk to is going to tell you. My second career is as a screenwriter. I've written two screenplays and they've both been optioned, but neither of them have been produced. That's very frequently the case because it used to cost about $5 to $10 million to make a movie. Now it costs $50 to $100 million. It's very hard for people to say, to green light a script, like that and all. Plus, it's a big collaboration with so many other people that have to contribute and all. So it's very hard to actually get a screenplay produced. But I studied screenwriting, and I said it's a major influence on my approach to game design. I write thrillers, and the key rule about thrillers is never be boring. In I remember when I went to see Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first 20 minutes, which was a continuous scene of him trying to get that statue and then the boulder coming after him, that changed movies. That was filmed as an amusement park ride, as a thrill ride and all like that, not as a storytelling kind of thing and all. And that influenced me, and I was very influenced by this screenplay adage, which the most important rule is never be boring. And then I just want to cover these other things. Screenplays have no extraneous scenes, characters, words, or pages. Good screenplays. The maximum length is 2 hours. We all know when a movie feels too long, but most of us are okay playing a game that lasts all day. I'm not, especially at my age. I'm in my mid-70s and all like that. I don't like to waste time. And sometimes rolling dice, moving hundreds of counters, and waiting for my opponent to move seems to me not the best use of my time. And that's why I'm designing different types of games now. I should also say I cannot understand people who clip counters. But fortunately, the industry has taken care of that. We're all going to pre-rounded counters. My new games will have pre-rounded counters and all. And the last thing just has to do with the game I'm working on. It's just a quote. And it's a quote that Patton says to Bradley, played by George
C. Scott.
And I forget the actor. Anyhow, he says, "Damn it, Brad, give me 400,000 of gasoline and I'll put you in Germany in 2 days." The thing about that is he's talking about speeding up the war. And I'm talking about speeding up the game. And he's also talking about one of the key things that most games about the Western Front miss, which is supply and all like that. It's not enough to have a supply line and all like that. The network of moving stuff from the beaches to the jump off points and all like that is very, very important. And yet, in most games, and this is not just true of the Western Front, in most games, wargamers are content with simply tracing a line of supply to the edge of the board. There are a few wargame designers who have gone in the opposite direction and have you roll out different tires for your trucks, and it becomes unplayable that way and all like that. But somewhere in the middle is where I'm trying to hit with my game Western Front, which is to have allocation of supply to armies and all like that. And therefore, it's not a case where everyone who can trace a supply line are all in supply and can all attack. If you know anything about the 1944 campaign, Patton wanted to attack in the south. Montgomery wanted to attack in the north through Holland. Patton wanted to attack through, forget the part, but it's south of Alsace and all like that. Eisenhower didn't have enough fuel for both of them and all like that. And once Eisenhower, he had to make a decision. This is also something that I'm gonna emphasize and all like that. Player decisions should, one, be realistic to the situation and all, not just good for the game, but realistic to the situation. And second of all, they should be important decisions. And there aren't that many of them. That's the
Yeah.
good thing. In a war game, there are lots and lots of decisions, but they're all unimportant. And they're all just rolling dice, like, on moving 1X and all. When Eisenhower has to decide whether to give the fuel to Patton or Montgomery, that's a real decision. That's a decision a game player should be given the opportunity to do. I can't think of any from SPI because there are too many candidates. There are too many different innovative ideas that energize me, that say there are different ways to do things and different ways to look at things. So the totality of SPI's output is what impresses me, even though, in my opinion, the majority of the games are not great games and all like that. But there are ideas in that people like me, like who've been designing for years, we like live to mine ideas from other designers. And there's just so many designers and so many ideas in S&T games. It's easier with Avalon Hill. I tend to like the original Avalon Hill games, the ones that are considered silly and ahistorical. I like them because they were the opening shot. So, for instance, the original Gettysburg was the opening shot. And if you look at a modern Gettysburg game, even like Herman Luttman's A Fearful Sacrifice or something like that, the Gettysburg game from Avalon Hill is his first step and all like that. And so I like Gettysburg. Here's a game I detest, but I like the fact that it's so simple. Victory in the Pacific, which is an Avalon Hill game that's a tournament game. The Battle of the Bulge. The Battle of the Bulge is like Gettysburg. It's the first stake in the ground about that battle and all like that. And I think everyone who's designing today should still be looking at those games. I know a lot of people say, well, they're so old-fashioned and their graphics are so bad and they're unrealistic and all like that. But most of those games were playable in a couple of hours. Most of them you could reach a decision. They were pretty balanced, like, and all like that. Although balance is a two-edged sword, like, and all. I would point to Battle of the Bulge, Gettysburg, and maybe Victory in the Pacific. Victory in the Pacific, I think I'll come back to that if we have time. Victory in the Pacific is representative of Avalon Hill, both the good and the bad and the ugly. I don't like that. So now we're going to go on to my crusade here, which I'll try and keep brief. You could try and speed me up. I just want to say these are the influences that are directing me nowadays. And well, the first thing I would point out is, to me, war games feel more like math puzzles than dynamic military situations. And why is that? Well, war games have so many locations, units, rules, concepts that they don't feel like they capture the pace of what we imagine war, because a lot of what we imagine is from seeing war movies, which are very, very much minimizing or telescoping the time and all. War games can telescope the time too, and all like that. But my question is, do war games really have to play so slowly? Do they really have to? For me, they feel boring and all like that. Is there anything I can do about that? Okay. Um, Third thing is that, and this is people in the industry know this, wargame players have a godlike control and knowledge, and too much knowledge lengthens play and reduces realism and fun. The best example I can give there is the whole industry has rejected the idea of hidden information
Mm.
because it doesn't work very well for solitaire play at all. But it works very well for two-player at all. And every war, no war is fought solitaire. Everything in our industry should be looked at as as like the real warfare is a competition and all. And we should make special efforts to adapt hidden information systems so that they can be mimicked in some way in a solitaire game. And it's not just godlike knowledge; it's godlike control. This is very important, like and all like that. Players like to feel that they control the world. They want to play on a global scale. They want to control the military. They want to control the politics. They want to control the production and all like that. To me, this is a little bit like um, immature. The
Mm.
real people in these situations would never even entertain the idea of handling that kind of responsibility. Things would be delegated and delegated and delegated. We're going in a direction where there's going to be less and less feeling of plausibility or authenticity because we're more concerned with the 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 game's ability to generate a sense of power to the player rather than a sense of limitation, which is what real commanders like are far more familiar with.
Hmm.
Um, and just to continue down here, players know about the terrain, they know about the enemy deployment, they know about the enemy strength, they know the reinforcement schedule, they know the victory conditions. If anyone in history, like at Gettysburg, knew all that stuff, the
Yeah.
result of the battle would be completely different. So the games that we're playing, the way we're designing them now, are totally I, I don't want to say fictitious. They're like a bizarro image of what the reality is. They're like distorted in a way that's not really helping us understand history.
Mm.
And I maintain it's not really helping us have more fun, more suspense, more excitement. And well, we just have too much control and too much knowledge. Um, then I want to go down to just these last two. Um, I saw an interview recently with a man named Clint Warren Davies. I think he's from Australia.
Yep. I've
He
interviewed
did
him
a game
twice.
called 1 Hour World War II. It's a small game, like and all like that. And yeah, anyone who hasn't seen it, look it up on YouTube and watch it. He has a completely different approach than most of the designers I've worked with. I have an approach similar to his, but what he says is you start out saying, how long should the game take to play? Then you say, how many decisions should the player make in the game and all? And then and he said he had this approach very similar like screenwriting. He said, what are the decisions that are important in World War II? And he said Atlantic theater first or Pacific theater first, and all England or Russia, and all like that, and all. And he made the point decisions should be binary. We shouldn't be dealing with many decisions like on a tactical level, it's different, but we shouldn't be dealing with many decisions like should this guy be here? How many people can I squeeze into this hex and get better odds because I know the value that's in that hex and all like that. He calls all that executions, which is what players seem to love, but they bore me and all like that. But he says no, in a game on World War II, players should make certain significant decisions. So he wrote down on index cards, and he did it in a binary fashion, A or B. And he
Mm.
took all the whole war and he wound up with 50 or 60 cards. And he said, these are the decisions I'm going to build into the game, and all like that. He didn't start off with, the scale or something like that. He started off with um, the amount of decisions the players would have to make in the time that he would allow the game to run. And then everything is sort of retrofitted or back engineered. I don't remember what the word is, to those requirements. And to me, that was the most brilliant game design explanation I've heard. At least since I worked with Dunnigan, who developed his own model 50 years ago, which was completely different and all like that. And he's an extremist, and he says I'm not quite as extreme as him. But what I'm saying is there's plenty of room between where we are now, where you have to move thousands of pieces and make thousands of very unimportant decisions, and making only the major decisions and moving only a few pieces and not knowing as much about what's going to go on and all like that. There's room between them to come up with much better games for people like me and all. And then at the end, I just say many games take too long to learn and too long to play. New gamers are repelled and experienced gamers are bored. This again is like about my game design philosophy as it is now. One of the key questions is who does the player represent? What are the appropriate command decisions and limitations for the chosen scale and scope? And then I say, real battles are not decided by odds calculations and location optimizations. Battlefield commanders don't have time to trace the best movement path and optimize numerous jump-off points. This is all pure fiction. The way games are, the way Dunnigan created with the zones that control the movement allowances and the combat strength. I told you he was a numbers game, a numbers guy. That is a model, that is an approach, that's a theory. And it's worked for many, many people. And most of those people don't want to know and don't want to try a different system and all like that. But playing the game feels like something very different than understanding what actually went on in the battlefield. Every time I see someone retrace a movement path, then go into a different hex, I say, I'm stuck in Candyland here and all. You know what I mean? I'm stuck in some kind of game that really has no relationship to reality.
Yeah.
Okay. The force multipliers that are most decisive in real war are undervalued or misrepresented in most war games. In my opinion, these include intelligence, supply, and surprise. Surprise is really important. Danny Parker, who did Hitler's last gamble, and now he just did the last gamble. And well, he's come to the conclusion now that surprise is the single most important factor in military conflict, the single most influential factor, and all like that. And Trevor DuPuy, who's a military historian, also said that that was the most important factor. Again, getting back to what I said earlier, surprise is almost totally left out of war games. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with using hidden information. There are ways of making surprise in the games that are more sophisticated. They're sort of like halfway steps. Like just recently, I was thinking about, maybe the one good way of making surprise, and this is not a brilliant stroke because we've done something similar before this. We just haven't recognized how brilliant it is. But to me, I said, maybe the best way to simulate surprise is by allowing the player to wrest control of the initiative, or changing the sequence of play and all like that, and doing it in a realistic number of instances.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, if you think of the Western Front, when you get to December 1944, the Allies have been on the offensive through the autumn of 1944. There was a counteroffensive against Montgomery and Holland, but the normal sequence of play in a Western Front game is the Allies go first. Well, when you get to December 1944, the Germans, the Allies can make a certain commitment, but then the Germans can say, no, I'm launching a counteroffensive now and interrupt you and take you
Yeah.
by surprise, like that. These are the ideas that I'm trying to mine to say, we can have a much richer war game experience. And then I just say, war gamers like to eliminate enemy units, real generals like to minimize losses.